Stream, and today we're going to be talking about the very important question of does God exist and does it matter? I've been talking this month about different definitions of God and oneness of God and why does it all matter. I want to start off with this video, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but one of the reasons why I want to play this video is that sometimes I think we're hyper aggressive and just kind of my fact is right, therefore you're wrong, all this kind of stuff. And this video is beautiful in the sense that it talks at another level. That's one thing, sort of emotional level, and I think we don't contemplate enough in this world. So, I mean, in the West anyway. And the second thing is it comes from a place of empathy. We're here to help rather than I'm here to prove you wrong. So let's just get on with it. So they're at a university campus. You're going to listen to some music, essentially vocals, and let's see what people get from it.
If you're comfortable wearing these headphones, you'll hear my voice more clearly, and then we'll go from there. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض.
That was beautiful. That was very relaxing to hear that. You seem really well. Just didn't expect to.
Seeing some weird stuff cutting off here and there. Anyway, they're giving their reactions. They generally liked it and found it very peaceful. You couldn't see all the translation. I mean, the translation. Maybe that's the same experience that they had, which is they didn't know what the guy was singing about. Your immediate reactions. Did you have you watched it before? This clip?
No, I don't know why you're playing it. It seems to be cutting in on our discussion time. I mean,
okay.
We all know what's
I'll make it quick. Okay, the video was playing a verse of the Quran that I want to discuss, and it's to do with this topic. What's the point of who cares if God exists? And it says essentially people who contemplate the universe and essentially see the art that it is. No art goes without purpose, and without playing the whole thing, you can play the whole thing you want if you want, and there's a link in the description. There's a document which has the link in the description. Essentially, people felt that knowing that everything has a purpose, including them, made them feel worthwhile, like worth carrying on in life, basically. It's the opposite of nihilism, is a very short version. So what's your reaction to those thoughts?
Well, it's calming. So it's not like drill or rap or, disco.
Yeah, so the first guy was saying, I thought you were going to rap to me, but it was much better than that. Yeah, it's the opposite of the intensity of modern materialistic Western life, I guess. Cool, yeah. And so putting that video aside, and hopefully people might listen to it themselves in their own time. I've got the link below. I'll cut that out. Okay, and I've just got a couple of questions, and we can go in any direction after that. So a couple of questions are, I suppose, let's see. Maybe I'll quickly post the actual verse for people to contemplate for a second. So the verse goes, those who remember Allah, that's one of the things we've been talking about with the Christian viewers. They accept that, Allah is just a ancient name of the one God. Allah standing, sitting, and lying on their sides, and ponder over the creation of the heavens and the earth. Our Lord, you have not created this without purpose. No, you, God, that is God, do not have such defects, as in a defect of just making things randomly. Save us then from the punishment of fire. It's like poetry. You can take many different things from it. The question I want to ask you, and I'll quickly post that, makes it easy to focus, is does it make sense the universe, like any work of art, was created with purpose? That's part one. And do you think, without realizing each of us were created for a reason, it can feel sometimes that life is not worth living? So 2 questions for you.
Well, you want people to assume the existence of God. They won't, because they hate you. So what we need to do is to say that.
But I want you to answer the question from your perspective, like not what everybody else thinks. Let's not assume what other people think. Like even the people what in the video disagreed with your point of view, and considering religion has a resurgence, lots of people are coming back to religion. It's not true that people would contemplate the universe and realize that there must be a creator. So from your perspective, okay, let's break it down. Just Rose, you can even give a yes or no answer. Okay, but you can be agnostic, means you're not decided.
I don't want to argue about it because it's so pointless. I mean, what we can say, let's grant the atheist that God was created by men for mind control. Let's assume
this is
that.
the question for you. You can say yes or no.
I said I refuse to answer because I'm agnostic, and you keep pushing me, and I know you want to say yes and God exists, but that's not my position.
No, you're agnostic. Do you know what agnostic means?
I think
it means not refusal to think. That's not what agnostic means.
Knows. So the people who reject the idea of God.
You can say nobody knows. That's your claim. But agnostic doesn't mean I refuse to think or refuse to answer questions. There's a simple. You can give a yes or no answer if you want.
Okay.
Then you take a second.
So I will say that
does
the
it make
concept
sense
of God
that universe
definitely exists, right? Like lies exist.
The concept of God exists, but that's a different question. Does it make sense if there's a work of art? Have you ever seen a work of art without purpose?
Well, it was created by the artist, so the artist had a purpose.
Cool. So that means you agree it has a purpose, I guess, because the universe, most people would consider a work of art can be detailed, highly functional, very creative, so greater than any painting. Okay, cool. And do you think, this is a kind of important existential or purposeful kind of question, and I think it's very important to many people. Do you think, without realizing each of us were created, so if we didn't think we had any reason that we exist, do you think it feels like for a lot of people life is not worth living if we're kind of random and without we don't have a reason that we were made?
Yeah. So if people are feeling depressed and suicidal, I mean, I think even people who do believe in God might feel that life is not worth living and they would rather die. But there's this command in the Quran that tells people not to kill themselves. So if somebody is suffering from depression and they don't think their life is worth living, in a way, we can't say, oh, but our lives are so wonderful, and why can't they be more cheerful? At the end of the day, you can only agree with them that yes, you can be depressed, and sometimes people do feel that life isn't worth living, but nevertheless, they mustn't kill themselves. I mean, because God says no.
But I think it makes a difference that you have like if you were told your life is pointless, then it makes there's not much okay, so I'll put it this way. I would say religious people, the more atheist society is becoming, the more suicide is going up. So I think there definitely is a correlation between
I would agree with you there, which is why I mentioned that obeying God's laws, even if you're not sure if God exists, is useful, and governments should encourage it.
Yeah, cool. But I think it's not just that God says don't kill yourself. That's one thing. But it's like God also said you are important. That kind of matters. If you're kind of just random and pointless, then who cares? I'm not saying you should kill yourself, but you have a sense that, oh, okay, well, what difference does it make if I carry on or not? And I think a lot of people feel that, including
Well,
some of
if you
the
believe in
video.
God, the Christians have this idea of being turned away at the gates of St. Peter's, right? People die and then they go up to St. Peter's, and he's supposed to let them into heaven, right? I don't know if you are aware of this, this
No,
story.
I've never heard of that one. Yeah.
So, so basically, they're saying that if you, arrive before time, i.e., you've killed yourself, you will be turned away by Saint Peter, and also that there used to be the practice of excluding suicide, so they can't be buried on consecrated ground.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just to kind of make a point that you can't arrive early.
Oh, yeah, I understand that
You'll be turned away.
Suicide is against biblical law as well. Yeah. And they might
Actually, the Bible doesn't say don't commit suicide.
Oh, it doesn't, because I saw a movie where they say, what does it say? If you're a suicide, yeah, there's a great movie called Kingdom of Heaven. It's about crusaders and stuff, and they considered it a sin to kill yourself. Maybe it was inaccurate. I thought it was quite accurate. Maybe.
I'll look it up now, but as far as I know, it's not forbidden in the Bible. But
okay,
the reason. But I mean, it's only, you shall not murder, and people don't think of murder as suicide. They think of it as a different category. So it's self-murder. So that's how they, get round it.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. There's not an actual commandment not to commit suicide. Okay.
But the Quran is clearer on the matter, which is another reason to endorse it. So yeah, I mean, but perhaps parents or the loved ones of people who have committed suicide might see the difference and acknowledge it.
Yeah. Since we got Mr. Bubblegum, whatever his name is, Bubblegum Gun, saying a couple of things, do you understand what? I mean, I didn't understand define exist. I mean, that's quite confusing.
Yeah, I don't know what his. Oh, I suppose he means does God exist, and what does it mean? And I'm saying, I'm agnostic, so I'm saying people don't really know. That they don't know for certain, though. A lot of people behave as if they are certain of it, but nobody actually knows. for sure. You know, like
Sure,
I've
I
seen it. I've
suppose.
got a certificate of having seen God and that kind of thing.
I mean, some people say they've experienced God and all this kind of stuff in different ways. Like, how do people know their brains exist? What method do they use to realize their brain exists? All that kind of stuff. They might use their eyes, they might use other senses or reason or something. Real just means actually existing. Okay, fine. Okay. But
I
let's
think
say we go.
atheist,
Sorry.
bubblegum gun is atheist, and that's
Okay.
why he's asking these questions.
Okay. Yeah. But let's say we go with this definition. Ignore the circular part here. Do you think God is a thing?
Same question.
Okay. A thing. I mean, exists. God exists. It's not like made out of particles. It's beyond yeah. I think everything comes from God. That's my understanding from the Islamic idea. And I could kind of give a more string theory description, maybe like basically there's nothing that really exists. Like, for example, I'm not going to go into it too much, but atoms don't really exist. They're just vibrations, and everything's generally kind of an illusion. So a fluctuation of some other thing that we can't actually pin down. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
something like that.
he's asking because, you know, with atheists, that, you know, they're just going to feel stupid if they think they believe in something that doesn't even exist, and, you know, passed up all these opportunities to have sex and fun, you know, because they believed in something that doesn't exist, and then they die and they didn't even have any fun. You know, that's how an atheist thinks, right?
Okay, and that's not bad. That's okay. But I would say my counter would be that actually you have way more fun. You're going to be way more happy. You're going to be less suicide. You're going to have more sex if you're religious, just statistically speaking. So you're not missing out. God is just saying, here's the best way to live life. Then you can choose it or not. And people are realizing material things are not the only thing. So you're going to connect with the thing that even psychologists have been talking about for a long time, that there's something beyond just material things that make you happy. And they're very, very important. It's like, if you look into something like flow state, what is that? It's connecting with some higher power or being aware of something beyond you that you can't fully grasp. There's so many, these are the states that are considered to give you the most happiness. So yeah, it's just win-win if you believe in God and recognize God.
It's about, you know, making your mind think in the long term rather than in the short term. In the short term, you want to enjoy, you know, sloth and lust and gluttony and greed and, you know, anger and envy, etc. And God says, don't do that. And it might be better for you if you didn't indulge yourself so much. You know, it's sort of like, you know, a school child, you know, a lazy school child, not wanting to revise, not wanting to, you know, do its homework, and getting bad results.
Yeah, exactly. Bad results. Good action gives good results.
Yeah, and diminished life opportunities and marriage opportunities because, you know, they didn't, you know, do as well.
Because you're a
as they could.
man-child.
Yeah.
You didn't develop.
Not fulfilling their potential.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next quick question. So first, again, it's kind of based on another verse of the Quran. I'll quickly post it. Different angles. So the first verse of the Quran was kind of contemplate. It must have a purpose, but also it gives you a sense of purpose. So there's a reason to believe in God. This one is maybe more focused on just the idea God must exist. It says, "Oh, people, listen to this example. Most definitely those you call instead of Allah or depend on instead of God, like scientists, cannot even create a fly, even if they're combined together for the purpose." And so my question to you, Claire, let's quickly copy paste it in. Okay, does it make sense to you that if all the scientists in the world cannot create a fly, it is unlikely a fly or we were created by a series of accidents? That's a question for you, Claire.
Well, I guess we can't just, create a new species of animal and that we were all, descended. I suppose people who believe in God would think it was Adam and Eve. So,
I mean, I have a different understanding of how all of that works, but yeah, that's a theological sort of, I don't know. I mean, I believe Adam and Eve were just okay, let's put it this way. Evolution is not against the idea of God. Accidental evolution is, but the fact that evolution actually just means things that go through stages, that's actually within the understanding of God in the Quran. Like the word Rabb, the creator, the Lord, means the one who creates in stages. So there's no problem with evolution. It's just accidental evolution, which is a crazy idea, I think.
yeah, I mean, even the Christians in America were saying that Adam and Eve could still exist. Um, I mean, evolution would not negate the idea of the first man and woman, because there's this idea that man evolved from apes, and there was the first pair of male and female humans.
Gotta be somewhere. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but I think there is a mindset that wants to deny God. Some people just want to because they don't want to obey, and this is the real reason they don't want to obey. Therefore, they deny the legitimacy of the laws that they're supposed to obey. So it's political and preferential.
Okay, so would you say this verse is making the point that our reason says that, this stuff is complicated. We are complicated. The whole universe is complicated. There's no way it could have just made itself.
Yeah, so there's this idea of God being the uncaused first cause. Because they talk about, we don't want, eternal regression. I think the idea that who created your parents and grandparents and ancestors and all that. But the thing is, you can even go with the atheist view. It's like, oh yeah, God was created by some wise men who wanted to control the populace, to make them obey certain laws that they think were eternal and universal. And it's like, yeah, and what was his reason? And the reason was to support marriage and long-term projects and risky undertakings. Because if you're scared, if you are corrupt and don't fancy taking a risk, you wouldn't want to do any of these things, like become an explorer and go to war, or even marry and have children. You wouldn't be interested in long-term projects. But sadly, the case is that most Western men are frightened. They are like women. They don't want to stick their necks out. They're too afraid even to speak the truth as they see it, or argue anything in case they get cancelled. And they are, basically disgusting, effeminate, infantilized women who just want to blame Jews and Muslims and never think that it's their stupid belief system that is the cause of their problems.
Yeah, the lack of belief system that doesn't give them any reason to carry on. Like, what's the point of getting married? It's just too much trouble, and we're going to be dead anyway, so who cares? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we're going to be dead anyway. I'll just kill myself. I'm not feeling too happy with the way my life is going. So that's what they do, right?
Cool. Yeah. So, I suppose the answer to this question is, yeah, sure, it makes sense that there must be a God, because we don't have any other reason. Like, as you said in the beginning of your answer, there are people who just don't want to believe in God, but logically speaking, all the fingers point to a God, because we don't have any other reasonable explanation for all this creation.
Yeah, and I would like to carry on this theme of, okay, let's grant these atheists that God is a figment of their imagination. When we think about it, what do we fear? We fear death, we fear suffering, we don't want to be a victim of injustice, and it would only be logical to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished if God exists to do it. And that's why they conceive of the afterlife and God who sends people to the right place after they are dead, after they have completed their, examination to, tell the difference between good and evil, in theory and in practice in this life. So it's all about passing an exam.
So I'm trying to, I mean, I've heard you say it many times, but I'm trying to make sure I fully understand it. So you're saying people feel it's all pretty unfair and pointless if there wasn't a master adjudicator, master judge who says it'll be all fair at the end, even if it's not fair in this life. Otherwise, people just give up because they'd say life's just unfair.
And they won't do the right thing. You see,
Yeah.
they won't stick their necks out. They won't, act on any principle. They would be very easy to threaten and bribe. And so in order for them to do the right thing, whether they're rewarded or punished, they have to believe that eventually they will be rewarded. Otherwise,
Yeah,
they'll say, well, what's the point of me sticking my neck out? I'll just
yeah,
get,
yeah.
Punished.
Yeah, as a Muslim, we always feel that life is fair, and that makes life worth carrying on and persisting with through really difficult things. And I would say religious people are the most patient, persevering, brave people. What is brave is like trying to do something exceptionally difficult because you think there's a reason, I guess. And you can't do that if you don't think there's a reason or it's fair. And
if you don't think it's going to work out in the end, because a lot of people are fearful and risk averse.
Yeah. So for me, even if I die and I don't see my success, it doesn't matter because I'm still successful. At the end, God has already promised that Islam's going to win. There's lots of prophecies about that. And I've won spiritually, even if I die without seeing physical results or whatever. It's just like just win, whichever way you look. So, yeah.
And may I just add that it's also logical, because I think people would like to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished. But if God doesn't exist to do these things, it wouldn't be logical to believe in any of that. You see.
Yeah.
Because somebody say, well, who's going to do it? I don't see an awful lot of good being rewarded and evil punished in this life. And then that's when believers talk about heaven and hell and God. That it will happen at some time in the future.
Yeah.
And this conviction, and of course it has to be a conviction, will make them do all these they would act correctly in the belief that good will be rewarded and evil punished. But otherwise they wouldn't.
Yeah. And on another layer, I mean, this might sound strange to people, but religious people, I can't speak for all religious people, I'll say Muslims, believe that the people create a heaven and hell for themselves in this life. But it's not always apparent to the average person. Like, for example, we believe Jesus was put on the cross and all this kind of stuff. That looks pretty terrible. And maybe it's hard to explain for the average person, but he kind of achieved his aim by sacrificing everything for his God, the one he loves the most, sort of thing. And I think all the pedophiles and whatever, all these terrible people are doing terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
They create a hell in their minds. They look like they've achieved all the things they want. They look like they've got away with things, but you can't get away with it. I think even though I don't like Jordan Peterson too much, I liked his thing where he goes, you get away with nothing. And it's so true. If you look through your own experience, every time you do a little bit of a bad thing, you don't get away with it. people might not lock you up for the bad thing you did, but internally, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, mentally, probably for materialists, you do suffer. And even Jordan Peterson, I think he's suffering a lot right now for breaking his own rules and selling out to Zionism. And I can't find the clip where her daughter Michaela Peterson said that he's suffering from spiritual problems in their own words.
A spiritual attack. That was what she said.
Oh, you found the clip, did you?
I don't have it to mind, but at hand. But she did say a spiritual attack.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and this is known by people like Viktor Frankl, top psychologists, who basically say, listen to your conscience. If you don't listen to your conscience, you will pay. So, are we on? Okay, one more. Okay, another.
Yeah,
one
before
here.
I just want to mention it with regard to Jordan Peterson. He doesn't even have enough conviction to say whether he believes in God or not, or the intelligence to say I'm agnostic, if he doesn't want to answer questions. So he just refused to answer and say it's a personal question. That's so pathetic. Sorry, that's all I wanted to say.
No. I mean, he's put himself. He wants to promote this idea, this Zionist idea that of what's it called? Judeo-Christian principles. He keeps pushing that. So he has to be pretending to be a Christian, but he can't say he's a Christian because I don't know if he even believes in God. That's a problem. Yeah. So he's trying to promote something, and then he's got himself in a difficult position because he doesn't even believe.
Well, because then he'd be asked, "Are you Christian?" and then he'd be expected to defend the Trinity, and it's impossible without sounding stupid.
I think the last straw was that thing. Did you see his last appearance that I saw when they was it? I don't know what they call it. Oh, what's it called? It was like one Christian versus 40 atheists.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah,
it was so bad for him because he the kid said that you sound like a whole load of nothing then, because that's what he is. So, and he collapsed and he didn't physically collapse, but he just said, I'm stopping it there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so embarrassing for him. I think that was his last appearance that I saw of anyway. Mm-hmm. That was the end of him, I think. So you got this, oh gosh, what have I pasted? Okay, sorry, can I quickly put this on? So, do not the disbelievers, does it surprise you that the Quran written 500 years? I feel like it's not pasting the right thing. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Copy, paste that. Okay, so first the verse of the Quran, and then we're going to ask a question based on it. Do not the disbelievers see that the heavens and the earth, that's just basically the universe, were a closed up mass, then we opened them out, and we made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? So closed up mass, and we opened it out. Everything was in a closed up mass. That's
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, very clear, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's this other idea. Let's quickly paste it, really. Okay, sorry. So let's put the question to, and the other thing was about, everything made out of water, which is how NASA essentially looks for life. So here's the question. Does it surprise you that the Quran, written 1500 years ago, knew about the Big Bang and that all living things are composed of water, so much so that NASA use signs of water on other planets as signs of life? So this is understood in science. And how did the Quran know about these things? And it's essentially, this verse of the Quran starts off with, do not the disbelievers see? Okay, essentially talking to atheists. So this is an argument for atheists, basically, that how does the Quran know these things? So does it surprise you that the Quran knows these things?
Well, I suppose Muslims would say it knows all these things because it came from God, right? And I suppose the great thing about it is that these Christians are always going on about the miracles that Jesus performed, and Muhammad never performed a single miracle, unless you want to count the Quran as a miracle.
Right. This is the most testable miracle there is. It still exists to be seen in front of you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So just to ask the short version of the question, does it surprise you that this stuff is there? You personally, do you go, "Oh, that's surprising," or it's like, "Oh, that's just an interpretation," or what's your reaction to this verse?
Well, I suppose it's pretty accurate, right? And this is something that people should consider when they want to dismiss it. It's not asking you to believe in absurd things, unlike Christianity.
Okay, cool. That actually comes to our next question that you proposed in our WhatsApp conversations. Even if God does not exist to punish anyone for anything, it is still a good idea for government to encourage belief in God and obey his laws. And I want to reiterate what you just said. The Quran doesn't ask you to believe in absurd things. So how can you expect somebody to follow something if they don't logically believe in God? I think the first stage is they must believe in God. But anyway, that's your question. You can
Well,
answer
I think
it however
they
you like.
must want to believe in God. You see, that's a thing, because people just believe whatever, ridiculous thing they want to believe in. And, some of them maybe, have good reason, others not. But the point is, people, rearrange their lives to pursue their dream. That, others around them might say, you're never going to be this, famous person that you want to become because you're, all kinds of things. But anyway, the whole point of this is really to encourage people to A, do the right thing, as we were discussing earlier, and B, obey the law, which is supposed to be from a trusted source. Because if you're saying, just rely on your MPs to make the laws of your country, you might think, well, they're corrupt and incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. Why should I trust them to make the laws of my country? But if you think, oh, but God gave us these laws, you might think, oh, well, then I'll follow them because I trust in God. It's that sort of idea, really.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. So we're all, I think, naturally going to look for better solutions or rules than mere mortals and even worse, corrupt mortals like our politicians. Fair enough. Okay. But the way you said it a minute ago was people believe whatever they want to believe. I think there's a lot of truth in that. But I think look at the case of Christians, right? Christianity is dying out. They want to believe in a white man God, okay, especially if you're white. But you can't commit to it. So I think an additional thing is people might want to believe in stuff. And I was trying to convince people that it's good for them to believe in God. It gives you a sense of purpose, whatever. But it should also make sense. Do you agree?
Oh yes, because I've been saying, if you're shopping around for a religion, you should choose the one with the most powerful being conceivable and have the clearest rules that give you the most liberty. And these are the three criteria.
And the one that makes sense the most.
Yeah, easy to believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most powerful, easy to believe, clearest rules. 4 things. And and gives you the most liberty.
Interesting. What's this about most liberty? What's that all about? Can you explain?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm comparing it to the Torah with 36 capital offenses, right? So, these Jews, they could be executed for breaking the Sabbath, for sodomy, adultery, that there are lots of things that we would regard as minor offences, and it's death for them. So, I mean, it's not surprising that over the centuries, they're trying to say, oh, it doesn't mean what it says. It just means, it's strongly disapproved of. And anyway, since they don't live in, the ancient kingdom of Israel, there's nobody to execute them for breaking their own rules. So they basically salami sliced all their religious principles away. And then I guess for them, they think, we don't want to think that the Muslims have the better revelation, because, obviously it's a bit humiliating. And the Christians too, they don't want to think that since the 4th century, they were force-fed this ridiculous story about Jesus being God, because if their ancestors, denied the Trinity or questioned it too much, they'd be burnt at the stake. So they don't want to think that they've been misled and, told to believe in lies and nonsense since the 4th century, because, it's very, you don't want to feel
It's
that you've been
humiliating,
tricked or
yeah.
tortured and lied to.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about this idea of more liberty. So a lot of people say Islam is not a liberal religion. It's a conservative religion. It's got lots of laws. It's got so many laws that our friend SSJ or SJJ, whatever,
SJJ.
he would say,
mhm.
SJJ, he said Prophet Muhammad's autistic because he made so many laws about everything, like use your right hand to clean yourself. Oh, no, sorry. Use your left hand to clean your backside, your right hand for eating food and stuff like that, and whatever. So how would you? I mean, I know you're not the Muslim, but you're making
Well,
an
it sort of
interesting
makes
claim.
sense, if you don't have, soap and water all the whole time, right? You
Which
don't
you
want to
don't.
be,
Yeah, it's very practical for me. Yeah.
because you don't want to be, eating fecal matter if you haven't washed your hands, right? And I
Yes,
guess
if
in the
I'm on the
desert,
move, yeah, go on.
you don't want to be actually eating, yeah.
So some order in the way you do things, so then you have less germs and less sicknesses and stuff like that. So when I'm walking around, it's like, okay, I'm eating fast food, use my right hand, and then my left hand is always for, like, touching things I don't want to not particularly dirty things. I'm going on a bus, I'll probably use my left hand to hold all the dirty parts of the seat or
Mhm.
whatever, all that kind of stuff. So it's really actually practical, even though it sounds like more rules, but actually it helps me. So why not? So how do you think Islam balances the number of rules and liberty? Because I think you're saying that Islam gives you liberty despite having the rules.
Yeah, I mean, the First Amendment is really the most important one, that, we should be allowed the space to say incorrect things and not be punished for it, and question things, because when you allow people the freedom to discuss things, you you help people solve problems, sooner rather than later. But if they're afraid of, that they might get into trouble or be thrown in jail or burnt at the stake or whatever, then you're not going to solve your problems, because people will be afraid of discussing things, in a logical and honest way.
Okay, so it's got a very important rule. If I put it another way, the question, do you think Islam has too many rules?
I think a lot of the rules that people hate come from the Hadith, but if you go, just read the Quran, I think they're fair enough. I mean, that's what I've been, trying to explain to people. I think they're fair enough. I wasn't born Muslim. I think I can interpret in a way that I would find tolerable.
Interesting. Tolerable doesn't. It sounds. I'm kind of reversing the positions here because I'm the Muslim and I'm trying to get the non-Muslim to convince me of Islam, which is funny. But let's have some fun with it, right? So, tolerable doesn't sound exciting. For me, Islam is exciting. Every rule that Islam gives me makes my life better. every rule, every idea, every concept. So not everything is a rule necessarily. It's just like an idea that, you know, you will be punished eventually if you do bad things and whatever. And there's so many tiny details to Islam. Yeah, so
Yeah,
all
I
those
think the rules
details.
are
Yeah.
safety rails for our own good from a benevolent God, right? Because if he didn't care about us, then he wouldn't be, giving us instructions. So that would be, a way of interpreting it if you want to, move towards belief, because it's logical, right? If you want to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished, then it's only logical to believe that if God exists to, punish evil and reward good.
Yeah.
And why
And
wouldn't you want to believe in that? And they have no answer. Already they will have no answer. And then you say, well, it might not be true, but then you can say, well, Jews have been around for a long time, and they're supposed to believe in God, and maybe, the fact that they're still around to annoy so many Gentiles is, God's will to, make Gentiles look at Jews, wondering, why they're still around.
or why they're successful. Is that what you're trying to say? Like, how did they exist for so long, and how have they become so successful? And they would say, the religious ones would say, God told us these things that help us, and a lot of their ideas are good. It's not like I think they're all wrong. For example, I like the general idea of the Sabbath. It's a bit extreme, their version, but it's great. What's it called? Detox from social media. Yeah, for people who don't know, the Jewish Sabbath is a really extreme thing. They can't even switch on lights or something.
Or use their mobile phones.
Yeah,
and
but they sit together and have family time. That's amazing.
yeah,
Without staring at a phone, they have to talk to each other, which is amazing. It's a really good thing. And then I think they even talk business. Maybe is that anti-Sabbath?
well, no, they can just sort of hang out with family and friends, and think about what it is to be a Jew, and I think. Strangely enough, it was today that it occurred to me, the point of the Sabbath was really to democratize leisure, because I guess in the olden days, the wealthy would be leisured, and they don't have to, they want their servants around. But it's like, what about the servants or the slaves? They need some time off too. And if you have the Sabbath, then everybody, has a day off.
That's a great idea. And also there's this thing where we enslave ourselves in materialistic world, because we never, like, however much money you make, it's never enough. You always feel like, oh no, why am I taking this time off and relaxing? I think that's a common feeling, right, in the West. That is, we kind of self-punish. And so if you're forced to do it because God says so, then you start enjoying that enforced free time. So yeah, it's democratized, that everybody, like, within the system, it allows you to have free time, which is great. But also you feel you allow yourself to have that free time mentally as well. I think there's just kind of different sides of the same coin, something. And the Muslim point of view, I mean, the Muslim version of the Sabbath is like a few hours, which is just more doable. You can even, I think in the Quran, I think it's in the Quran, or is it Hadith, saying the Prophet, like, you can even trade outside the mosque, which a lot of people do as well. Like, so,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Muslims have their me time with their, 5 times prayer thing, right? Because I think, the Sabbath is really me time to think about yourself. And when Britain had Sunday trading laws, the whole idea was to make Sunday as boring as possible. So the only thing you could do was maybe go to a restaurant, go for a walk. The shops wouldn't be open. And that will concentrate your mind, because you think, this is so boring. This is so boring. How can I make it not boring? Oh, I can be, a parent preparing Sunday lunch, having people over, and being a gracious host and entertain myself that way. But so it means like, well, I better get married in order to do that, because if you're single, it's not going to be much fun. You see.
That's an interesting response to having free time. I'm going to get married. But it does make sense. I think a lot of people who are single don't always connect with friends because their friends are busy doing something else. But if you're married and have a family, you always have people connected with you. Really
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, and I think we have to have these things to push us into thinking about the future, and actually force us into being bored, so we think about how to get over the boredom, and
That's an interesting. I mean, okay, so you think I can see as well. I can see a point of view as well that okay, free time can seem boring when you don't have any materialistic things to do. Especially in the old days, we didn't have YouTube. We had 2-3 channels. This is like when I say the old days, only like in the 1980s when I grew up. Okay, we actually had this thing where the shops were closed on Sunday mostly, and now that's completely changed. I get that. From an Islamic or spiritual point of view, I think we should. It's because the reason why people are bored so easily is because they're not good at contemplating the universe. Like going for a walk in the park. Oh, by the way, do you like my background? Because it kind of relates to my point.
Yes.
This is my garden or the stairs to my house, basically.
Oh, how nice! Yes. I was going
Yeah,
to say
so
it goes
unusual.
with the color, the background, and what you're wearing.
Yeah, that as well. So yeah, I love traditional stuff. So a lot of the houses here are white and very polished and looking, but I like this village style house. I'm in the village, but they got lots of fancy houses in the village as well. So yeah, it's like just walking, seeing plants. It's actually really good for you. I mean, you probably heard me repeat a million times how just being in nature is more powerful than any antidepressant. So I don't think we should just see free time as boring. I think that's a symptom of not being able to contemplate and enjoy. I think the worst thing people do, I think, when they're going out, especially so city folk, I don't know how to describe them, wearing headphones when you're going out in nature, you can't connect with nature. You're not hearing the birds sing. So people who are not used to contemplating and absorbing the beauty around them, they're really missing out and they find things boring. And I do think somebody mentioned it to me, and I think it does have an effect on me. Like I start, doom scrolling sometimes, and it's like kind of embarrassing. It's like, well, where did 1 hour go? That's really bad. I really hate that. It does affect the way your brain can absorb beauty around you and can make everything seem boring. I think so. So there is something about technology like that. Yeah.
I mean, I listen to young people talk, and it's like you're just talking nonsense. It doesn't even make sense. And
Like what? What do you mean?
Well, I mean the YouTubers that I observe, and there's definitely a difference in communication and language between the generations, and it's sort of they can't even. Okay.
They can't express long form ideas. Like they have to say everything in short and.
No, it's not the kind of texting thing. It's actually they take a long time to get to the point, and they can only think aloud. They don't already know what they're going to say, and I was thinking, if you don't know what you're going to say, then don't say it. Don't bore us with you thinking aloud and taking 5 minutes to monologue, and then it doesn't even get
Why do you
anywhere.
think that is? Why can't they express themselves? Is it because lack of practice, lack of social experience, or
I think so, or lack of education, because they don't teach them anything anymore. This was something I noticed years ago when I actually went to universities when they're giving talks, and then there's Q&A later. And then I noticed that a lot of these young students, they couldn't just come up with a question like, you said this, why that, how that, or whatever. They just kind of, oh, hi, da, 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 da. There's just a long ramble, and it's like nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah, I can understand that people can't think of questions because they spend so little time thinking deeply that you don't have clear ideas. You just avoid them all the time. Is that right? I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't understand that the whole purpose. It's like it's Q&A. You stand up and you ask your question. You don't make a speech. Nobody wants to hear you ramble on. And then of course, with my idea of secular Quranism, I present it, for them, and I'm just kind of waiting for them to ask me questions like, well, how are you going to make it happen? Blah blah. Can we do this or whatever? But they just, it's like they're horrified, they hate it, and then that's it. Their head explodes and they don't want to talk about it. But I suppose for me, I mean, I would be asking all kinds of questions like, well, how do you think it's going to work? How are you going to, make them do it? How are you going to, and it's been very frustrating because they don't ask the obvious next question. And I'm thinking, is there something wrong with them? Are they stupid? Or do they just not want to go there because they know where it's going, kind of thing?
Yeah, they don't want to go there because they like their freedom to do anything, essentially like savages or children. And they don't realize where that leads to, which is nowhere. So a huge number of very unsuccessful, unmotivated people in the West, unfortunately. That's one of the reasons for its collapse. And this is not me just hating on the West. I'm saying, guys, I don't want you to be miserable and suicidal. You got to, let's put it the way you put it, Claire. You got to have a religion. You got to have a direction. You got to have a philosophy of life to get anywhere, because it always starts in the mind.
Yeah, or a destination or an objective. And I've been listening to the TLC people, the Paul van der Klee people, and a lot of it is just data seeking. So if I get to talk a lot, it means I'm higher status than the person who doesn't. And this is that's it. It's not that you're actually.
What seeking?
Sorry, what's your question?
You said something seeking.
It's data seeking. So
data seeking. Sorry. Okay,
yeah. So if you get on a stream and they allowed you to talk, it means that they kind of respect you. And if you talk a lot, then it means you're kind of the friend of the the YouTuber. And if you get kicked off, it means they hate you and they don't like your ideas, or you're boring, or whatever it is.
I saw a bit of that. It was quite funny when you I don't normally listen to it, but I was thinking myself, this guy is so boring. He's just waffling for so long and nobody's stopping him. And then you turned up. I don't necessarily agree the way you approach it. Like, you just basically insulted him and he went off, and then but it was really funny because the host was scratching his head because he's not used to controlling things. Like with me, it feels like he was feeling embarrassed to stop you from talking, and it took all his will to stop you from talking.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's different styles. I mean, we're just having an adult conversation, and it's great. But for Luke, it's sort of, I'm going to talk at you for 1 hour, and it's all nonsensical and doesn't make sense, and then I'm going to let you in, and I'll remind you of my rules, and you have to do this, and you mustn't do that, and it goes on, and then
is Luke the Jewish guy who you call the rabbi?
No, this is Luke Thompson, and he's this Orthodox Christian, and he's a father and everything.
The host of the show, that particular show that kicked you off. The one you sent me a link to. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. It was on Luke Thompson's stream. So I mean, he has a different style, and I think it's more like a nursery. When children are doing their show and tell, and you have to be kind, and everybody has an equal length of time to talk, and whatever. And I'm just sitting there tearing my hair out. It's like, come on, get to the point.
Because there's no direction, and the only purpose there is not to be lonely. So you got online people which will actually listen to you because you got nobody else to talk to. Essentially, isn't that right? Basically, what's happening?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they show their faces, they hang out together, and they have to, they feel they have to be nice to each other. And I guess I'm more ruthless. It's like, the internet is for me to spread my message and for me to get to the point and
It's
ask
not
questions.
ruthless. I mean, there's you've actually got a purpose and direction, and you want to achieve something. If you're going nowhere, then if a person is going nowhere, then they feel like why are you in such a rush to shut down a conversation, isn't it? They don't see that because they're not going anywhere. They're not trying to achieve anything. They're just trying to kill time, because when they just switch off the live stream, they're going to be bored and nobody to talk to. They want to continue the live stream as long as possible, and everybody wants to feel like they've been heard. I would just I only disagree with completely insulting them like you do. I would just tell them how they're correct in some way, and then and recognize that they're lonely, and then work with that. That's what I do. But it is quite painful though, listening to it.
Yeah. So I suppose, I think it would do them good anyway to get straight to the point. But you see, I think it's something big about being American. They talk about themselves, much more than English people do, because I guess English people, they have something on their mind and they just say what it is. But there's a lot of talking about themselves, and which I kind of find very American.
Okay, so maybe they're more materialistic, and more materialistic means more narcissistic, like self-indulgent, self-involved.
I don't really know, but I suppose in a way it kind of makes sense. If something's on your mind, then you talk about it, and maybe you want people to understand you, so you tell them about your job and your wife and your family and your children, whatever it is, and maybe you want them to feel sorry for you, and then you tell them about your tragedy and your unfortunate experience, and it. But I think at the back of it is status seeking, which I do understand, but. Okay, I mean, what I feel about these men is that they've had their First Amendment rights taken away by their wives. So, they want to support Trump, the all kinds of, I mean, I don't support Trump, but neither of us support Trump anymore, but there was a time when people thought he might, end the endless wars and do, keep his promises. So there were these men who wanted to support Trump, and their wives who were horrified at the idea and even threatened divorce. So, and they all say that, my wife doesn't agree with me in politics, and she disapproves, blah, blah, blah. So, and I'm saying, obviously, it has an effect on men, because if they can't even express their own political opinions in their own home to their own children, because they're afraid of their wives disapproving of them and divorcing them under the rules of no fault divorce, then they would get a bit neurotic, in my view.
Cool. And so to bring it and to wrap things up, to bring it back to the original question, does God exist and does it matter? It might not seem related, the idea of men essentially being allowed to be men and be leaders rather than be controlled by their wives. It's Muslim men are very masculine in the normal definition of doing what they think they have to do, not being controlled by their wives, because the Quran lays out the responsibilities in a way so that they can be themselves, be masculine, be men, be leaders. So what's one of the many reasons why God's existence matters, because once you believe in God, which is the first step, then you can go, oh, this scripture makes sense. First of all, it seems like it comes from God, and then you can take advantage of the fact of good rules that help you.
Yes, and once you once you find the rules useful, you will just slide into belief. Because there are lots of things that we don't really know. It's sort of like, was the universe created or not? How could we know? Billions of years later, whatever. But once you want to believe in God, then you think, well, of course, God created the universe. So
I think it's both ways. It's like you have this initial reasoning that God must exist, and then you look at the Quran and it's got all these scientific miracles and go, okay, fine, it probably means God exists. And then you start experiencing the rules, it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. It's like, oh, okay, these rules really make my life better, and these rules are much better than any human rules out there. That's more evidence that God exists. It keeps kind of reinforcing itself. And then you look at the rest of the world and it's all falling apart, and you go, that's even more evidence that these are God rules.
Yes. Yes, and it's all logical and scientific, as you know, we've both been, saying to each other, and
Exactly. You're so ready to become a Muslim, but you just can't because you have to be a secular Quranist.
for reasons of
For reasons.
promoting, secular Quranism, because it has to
We
be
all get
promoted
what's
by a
happening.
non-Muslim,
Yes,
right?
we get what's going on. All right, cool.
Yes.
All right. Thank
Well,
you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank
Till
you.
next
I've had a lovely time, and thank you for hosting such a such a great dialogue. So
Great,
thank you for
So you
that, and
can't
I
take
love your
that back in.
background.
You can't insult me on WhatsApp afterwards, yeah?
No,
Now you said that.
no, I'm a happy bunny.
All right, take care. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
you
Bye.
too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.